Thank God you guys clicked on this video, because today I'm about to change your life. I'm about to give you 6 fragrance hacks that's completely going to change the way you wear fragrances, and that's really going to benefit you in the long run. These hacks are things that I have all personally used, and that has helped me out a lot, from helping my fragrance smell better, helping it project more, to overall just getting more uses out of my scents. I do want to hear from you guys. What are some fragrance hacks, some fragrance tips and tricks that you guys use to get the most out of your scents? If you got any little hacks or secrets or certain things that you do that no one else does, come on, let us know down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's try to help some people out here, and we can all kind of share our weird things that we do with our fragrances that end up working out really good. And of course, I do always appreciate you hitting that subscribe button down below. Also turning on post notifications and giving the video a like. All of that stuff helps out the channel tremendously, so I really do appreciate it. And now we got some juicy hacks to get into, so let's get started. So let's go and start off with number 1, and that is always leave a fragrance in your car. From a collector's standpoint, from someone who knows about keeping the condition of your fragrances good, you're probably cringing right now. And trust me, when I say it myself, it makes me want to cringe as well, because we all know keeping a fragrance in your car isn't good for storage purposes, because the temperature is always going to be changing. It can be humid, it could be dry, everything kind of changes, especially if you live in an area where you go through all the 4 seasons, all the different temperatures. In the long run, that type of weather change and temperature change is not going to be good for the life of your fragrance. However, I'm not telling you to keep a $300 fragrance in your car. If you just go with a cheaper one, like under $20, a Nautica fragrance or something like that, or a Calvin Klein fragrance, just something that you don't care too much if the top note starts to fade off after a couple years, throw that in your car. And the reason why is because we've all walked out the door and forgot to spray a fragrance on. Trust me, I've done it. I'm sure a lot of you guys have done it as well. And there's no worse feeling than getting halfway to the destination that you're going to. You're looking great, you're feeling great, and then you remember you forgot a fragrance. That just kind of kills the mood. So throwing a bottle in your car and just keeping it in there for emergency purposes like that is something that really can help you out and really can save you in the long run. And again, it's something that I do and I personally use quite a bit. Not only can you use it as a fragrance for yourself, but you can also just use it to freshen up the inside of your car. Say you're going to pick up a date and you're just rolling up to her house and you want the car to smell even better than it already does. Grab your bottle and do a couple sprays on the seat, and then when she gets in, it's going to smell even better. So it's just little things like that, by keeping a bottle in your car, that can really come in handy. Alright, let's go to number 2. This one is spray a fragrance in an oil diffuser. So you guys all know, you guys have all seen them, those essential oil diffusers where you put water in them and then you take essential oils and you put some drops in them, and then it creates like a nice mist and it makes your room smell great. They're pretty cool, they're nice. However, no one has ever really talked about this that much, or I don't know, maybe they have, but I haven't really seen it talked about that often. Grab your favorite fragrance. Fill that thing up with water, hit yourself with a couple sprays inside of that diffuser, turn it on, you're done. Magic. It really works great, and it's a great way to have your room smell like that fragrance without actually just picking up the bottle and spraying your room, because that is something you can do. You can use these as a room freshener if you want. However, you will notice that it will start to fade off over time because, well, it's a cologne, right? Just like when you spray a fragrance on yourself, it's not going to be projecting up a whole room for ever and ever. It's going to start to fade off at some point, and especially when you're just spraying these fragrances on like a blanket or something like that, fragrances really need heat and skin to project. That's kind of what activates them, and that's what gets them to push out. When you're spraying it on a blanket or just, you know, wherever you're spraying it in your room, it's not going to project that well after a while. But using the oil diffuser is a great way to get more life out of your room scent, and it kind of pumps it out for a longer time, and overall you'll find that it does work a lot better in terms of making your room smell better. In my opinion, this is a great hack that not a lot of people take advantage of. So if you just have one of those oil diffusers laying around, instead of going out and buying all those expensive essential oils that you don't even really need, grab a couple of your cheaper bottles, spray them in there, and have some fun. Moving on to number 3, when testing your fragrances, spray a friend or family member. Now, this is a really good tip. Now, the reason why you'd want to do this is simply to help test projection, help test sillage, and really kind of see how it develops on someone else's skin. And like I said, this is a great way to test projection and things like that. A lot of people ask me like, hey, how do you test projection? Because you hear all these people say, yeah, my fragrance projects to about here, blah, 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 blah. And people are like, well, how do you know that? Well, there's a couple ways, one of which being simply just spray your hand. If you just spray your hand and go throughout the day, if it's projecting, you're going to be able to smell the fragrance without you having to bring your hand up to your nose to smell it, right? So it's pretty self-explanatory. If you haven't smelled it at all as you're doing your thing and you have to bring your hand right up to your nose to smell it, well, that's because it's not really projecting. So that's kind of the main way that I test fragrances. But sometimes when I want to get a little bit more in depth and kind of make sure it's not olfactory fatigue or anything else like that, I'll just spray a family member, someone around me, and then I'll just kind of follow them around. We'll just do our thing, and then oftentimes I'll find myself catching whiffs quite a bit, and then I can kind of gauge how it performs, how it projects, and all that stuff. And you'll find a lot of times that when you do this, you'll see that scents perform a lot better than you think they do. A lot of these people, like, they just think every fragrance performs like crap on their skin. I mean, if you look on Fragrantica, if you look on YouTube, every fragrance review, there's going to be people saying that it lasts 1 hour, it projects for 10 minutes, and all this utter bullshit. Actually try this tip. Try spraying someone else, and you may be surprised that you'll realize that, hey, this actually does project. For most people out there, especially if you don't know what you're doing all that much, when you just spray it on your skin right here, you're going to go nose blind to it, and then you're going to think that it's not projecting and it's not lasting at all, when that's not the case. So this is a really good tip. It can be very useful to kind of gauge how your fragrances perform, and also just so you can kind of see how they smell in the air coming off of someone else, because skin chemistry does play a role in how fragrances smell. So it's kind of a cool way to see how it smells on other people and just see how it wears in the air. Moving on to number 4, this one is create a fragrance scented lotion. So this one's pretty cool as well. Basically what this is you grab any sort of unscented lotion from the store. I recommend getting something relatively high quality. I've tried doing this with some of the cheaper like Walmart brands or Dollar General brands or something like that. It didn't seem to work as well, and I found that actually some of the unscented lotions had a bit of a scent to them. So you want to make sure you get something that's relatively high quality. You don't have to go spend a bunch of money on an unscented lotion, but just get something that, you know, is not utterly cheap, because you're going to be spraying your potentially expensive fragrances into this, so you want to work good. But like I said, get some unscented lotion, and all you do is you just take whatever fragrance you want to use, spray it inside that lotion. You're going to want to shake it up real good, and ideally you're going to want to let it sit for a few days, because it's going to take a while for the fragrance to seep through and get full coverage on the lotion, because the lotion is pretty thick. Even if you shake it up, the fragrance still may be sitting on the top or in the middle. You kind of want to shake it up, let it sit for a while so it can soak in. And then what you do simply is, once it's ready to go, apply some to your neck or to your back of your wrist or wherever you're applying your fragrance, and then spray your fragrance over top of that. So it's like using moisturizer, but it's fragrance scented moisturizer, the one that you're using already. So it's a really great way to increase longevity, increase projection. Also, and it's just a great way to moisturize your skin and be smelling great while doing it. So this is a really cool tip as well. Some people do know about, and I have seen it talked about in some of the Facebook groups. Some people do this with Aventus, which is pretty cool. So yeah, you can experiment with this. It's really actually pretty neat to do. And honestly, it's a really great way to help boost your fragrance overall. Moving on to number 5. This one is store your fragrances in a cool, dark environment. So like I was talking about in the first tip with keeping a bottle in your car, all my collectors, all my purists out there were probably cringing at that and getting super pissed off at me. For fragrances you care about, you don't want to keep them in your car, you don't want to keep them in your bathroom, you don't want to keep them in areas where the temperature fluctuates. So the best place to store your fragrances simply is in a cool, dark environment. So if you have a basement and you have like a room that you can dedicate just to your fragrance collection, go put them there. Or, you know, even if you don't have a basement, it doesn't really matter. The main thing you want to keep in mind here is you don't want temperature fluctuation. So whatever room you pick them in, make sure it's a room where the temperature stays the same. Typically, you would want to choose a room where you can keep the door closed, keep the lights off, just kind of keep that room by itself. You know, you don't want the temperature raising and lowering a bunch, because at the end of the day, that's what damages these fragrances the most. I mean, people kind of get freaked out as well when you purchase fragrances either in the summer or in the winter when it's really hot or really cold. that's not a big deal. I mean, you got to think these fragrances are being shipped all over the world in all sorts of temperatures. So them being exposed to the extreme cold or the extreme heat for a while it's in your mailbox while you're at work isn't going to ruin it. What's going to ruin it is when you get that fragrance home, you throw it in your bathroom, and then a bunch of steamy showers fluctuate the temperature, and then it gets ruined after a couple of years. That's what hurts them the most. So you want to make sure you avoid that. Just pick a room where the temperature stays the same. Ideally where it's also dark, or at least where the sun isn't shining in through the window. So if you have windows in there, get blinds, or don't put the fragrances in the path of the window where it would shine in. Just things like that. You just want to be somewhat careful with them. Not telling you to go out and build a separate room and buy a big wine cooler or a big vault or something like that. It's not too crazy, but you just want to be smart with it. You don't want to put them in areas like a bathroom or anything like that. Or again, when it comes to the car tip that I talked about, number one, use a cheaper fragrance that you don't really care if it gets damaged. I'm not telling you to put your expensive niche fragrances in there. Would not do that. And finally, the last tip at number 6, this one is spray the back of your neck. So this is probably one of my favorites in terms of when I apply my fragrances. And I don't always do this. It really just depends on where I'm going and kind of what I'm wanting to do. So spraying the back of your neck is really the best way to be able to leave a nice scent trail or a nice sillage behind you as you walk. Of course, when you just apply it in regular areas, on the side of your neck, in the front or behind your wrists or whatever, it's still going to leave a trail. It's still going to project, but really spraying the back of your neck is really the best way to go to get that maximum scent trail. That's kind of what you're going to want to do. If you want people to be following behind you and asking what you're wearing and really being able to smell you for a long time, is spraying the back of your neck. So this is a really cool tip that I personally enjoy doing. And this is one that probably quite a few people do know about and quite a few people do, but some people, of course, may not know about this. So I wanted to include it in here at number 6. I think this is a really nice tip. One of my personal favorite places to apply. What's also nice about spraying the back of your neck is it helps with olfactory fatigue. So there are certain fragrances like Aventus, like Sauvage, like Baccarat Rouge 540, certain fragrances like that I'll go nose blind to extremely quick, meaning I'll spray them on, and then after, I don't know, maybe 15, 30 minutes, I can't smell them at all, right? That's just your nose tuning it out so that it doesn't damage your senses or something like that. I'm not someone who studies olfactory senses, but something to the effect of that. So by spraying the back of your neck, you're keeping that fragrance from always coming right up under your nose and burning out your senses. You can still catch whiffs of that fragrance even hours later when you spray the back of your neck, because you're not blowing out your senses. It kind of will waft around to you and you can smell it that way. So it's a great way to help with olfactory fatigue, and also it's a great way to get even better projection to get people noticed. So guys, that's going to do it for me. That was 6 fragrance hacks that are going to change your life. Trust me guys, give some of these a shot. Let me know down in the comments how they work out for you. I think you're going to be pretty impressed. A lot of these are really useful. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you drop yours down below in the comments as well. And that's going to do it for me guys. I'll see you tomorrow night with another one. Take care.